if we took 25,000 talking about results and ROI, they never worked. Everybody talks ROI. How to be coaching the team. Investment place number one and investment place number two. What are you doing to make that happen? The true ROI, which is if I take out 25,000 at 8%, but we had it flipped first time over 100,000. Market risk, investment risk, all of the different risks. I love that question, but a magical thing happened. What's your ROI? What? What do you mean by that? Most of the time, it's difficult without understanding it. 60 days in.
What kind of measurable results in ROI have agencies seen from using Telefunnels?
Ooh, yes. Okay. So talking about results, ROI, I love that question because I happen to have a slide from the webinar that is just ingrained in my mind when it comes to this. So I love it. Everybody talks ROI. In fact, when agents ask, hey, what are you doing? How are you writing 150? How are you writing 200K? What are you doing to make that happen? And I say internet leads, and we have dialing specialists that transfer the leads over to our sales team. That's the quick and dirty. There's a lot that goes into it, but let's leave it at that. And then the second question inevitably is, what's your ROI? My answer to that is it's 2.5 times the market in 2 years. What? What do you mean by that? Well, this is what we've seen. And it only works in those instances where the agent is actively engaged and following the telefunnel process, right? I know from experience, I have done some part of the telefunnel process forever, whether it was making the dials, whether it was having dialing specialists, whether it was getting the right amount of leads, but I never had all of it all together, all at the same time. And that's the difference. So most of the time it's difficult without understanding and having everything laid out in front of you, exactly what it takes and what numbers to be looking at, what metrics and what to be saying and how to be coaching the team and all of the different components that are necessary to get the results. So in the beginning, I had no ROI. For me, 60 days in, I'm about to quit. Now, if you remember back to one of the earlier concepts when I was talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect, when I was about to quit, it was Christmas of 2019. I'm about to go on a trip to Hawaii with my family. I was like breath away from telling my wife that we're canceling the trip and I can't afford it and freaking out, going down the whole scarcity mindset. Save. Oh, protect. I called Mr. Jason. It was like desperation call. I literally was crying on the phone like, dude, I'm effed. I've charged tens of thousands of dollars on my Amex. In 30 days, I got to pay it. We haven't improved. We're actually have a little bit less. We're on pace for less premium this month than we were last month when we ended. And this is the second had to happen. And I remember mid-December having this call. And, if you've been around for any amount of time, you've heard the story, but it's one of these things that just sit there and it's an important one for me. It was the defining moment in my career. Had I canceled, I don't think I ever amount to anything or would have been challenging, right? It would have been a big blow. So I would have had something, but it would have been a challenging setback and it would have been done for all the wrong reasons, the same reasons that there had been failures before. So luckily in the back of my mind, the logical part knew this to be true. And it was that phone call with Jason where he looked at everything, said, settle down. You don't need to cry. You're still going to Hawaii. This is what you need to do. And what he told me didn't necessarily set me at ease, but 2 weeks later when the results happened, I realized, what had happened there. I'm at the point of stopping. Here I am at the bottom of the Dunning-Kruger. I'm down at the pit. Right around the corner is actually the liftoff. We look at the numbers, and because I scaled up my sales team, and this was before we didn't realize this ratio, like really want to have 2 to 1, 2 dialers to 1 sales producer. But we had it flipped. I had 2 sales producers to 1 dialer, and I wasn't getting enough leads. So we backed through the math again, and I knew what had to be done. And he told me, Mr. Jason said, you need to buy more leads, you need more telemarketers. Do you think I wanted to hear that? No. Do you think I liked opening up my card to more abuse before I go on a trip with my family when I'm not sure? I did have certainty, right? I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it worked. Even though I'd seen it, I hadn't had it happen. And I'd failed so many times with internet leads that at this point, I'm thinking, dude, maybe I was right the whole time and they just suck. But a magical thing happened after I got on that plane. Because we'd already had a lot of activity going anyway, ramping it, we basically doubled the leads. I added 4 more callers. I had 4. So now I have 8. And it wasn't just double it. Now I got to wait. It was because everything was already being worked, just not enough volume. Adding in the right volume allowed for the older ones to start really warming, because now we're pushing the new ones and the older ones. So you get a couple of the new ones in the beginning, but if you're looking at a bell curve, it's going to take a little bit of while to get to the middle. So a week in, they start picking up. 2 weeks in, right before New Year's, they're really picking up. And we run across the holiday, like they are stampeding. We end up hitting 100 and it was like 117, I think, 116. It was somewhere right around there. First time over 100,000 ever for my agency in 10 years, right? So it took 10 years, I guess 11 if you count the new year. So 2020, beginning of 2020, we cracked 117, and then it was just all up from there until we settled at kind of a spot that's good and I'm comfortable. But that was a defining moment, because it would have been very easy to eject. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of fear, and I wasn't seeing a way out. I wasn't seeing that there was any chance to have this work. In my mind, I'm remembering all of the failures, not tying the fact that the wrong activity, everything was done wrong with them, right? I wasn't thinking like that. I'm just thinking they never worked. It's not working again. A equals B. It's over. Got to eject. And I've seen it happen countless times. We've helped so many people, and we try to lay down this foundation. We try to educate and help people understand that there is going to be a time where it's too tough, where there's too much on the table, there's too much at stake, and the emotions get the best of you, and you want to pull the plug. And that, my friends, is the moment that you need to push harder, investigate the numbers, and see where you can add to push to capacity. That is critical. So knowing that and understanding that the true ROI, which is your return on what you spent today over the lifetime of that client, which is totally calculatable, that's your true result. So let's take the market, 8%, right? That's what everybody says, 8%. So if we took 25,000, let's say we decided, we had a great year. We just got a bonus and there's an extra 25,000 laying around. Like, I wouldn't be happy with that. But there was a time when I was. Had I taken that 25K, taken it out and thrown it into the market, let's look at what would happen. So if I take out 25,000, I need to pay taxes. Let's just say it's 20% to make it simple, and I have 20,000 to invest. Okay. So if I invest that 20,000 at 8%, it's going to take, now I think I did it a little bit less. I did more for taxes spreadsheet. So I'm doing it from my mind. I'm doing it on the spot with a camera in my face, but it's around 5 years that it takes to break even. It may be a little bit sooner in this scenario, but let's just call it 5 years. Let's call it 4 years, whatever. 4 years to break even back to that 25,000, 8%. And it was 4 or 5. Now flip it. Let's take that 25,000 and not take it out. So now I'm not paying the government $5,000 because we know what they're going to do with it. They're just wasted. So unless they're listening, we know that you do really good stuff with it. So we take the full 25,000, we invest it in the agency. Okay. Now when we plug and chug into expected results of a telefunnel, given how it's performed over millions of dials, hundreds of millions, we've crossed the 100 million mark. So 100 million dials of analytics, we know that within about 2.5 years, we can make it even worse and call it 3 years. Let's call it 3 years, 6 renewals or 5 renewals. We know that the return is going to be about 2.5 times. If everything works out, if all of the activity is done at the levels it should be, and the appropriate amount of leads and dials are made, then it works out. So it's 100 million dials of analytics within 2.5 years. That's the difference, right? Like just looking at the two vehicles to invest. If it wasn't your agency, if it was investment place number 1 and investment place number 2, this one gave you 8% and this one gave you 250%. This 8% was over the course of 5 years. This 250% was over the course of 2.5 years. Who you taking all day, right? Or you may say, what's the risk? Well, I mean, the risk on the one that performs better is that the person running the vehicle doesn't follow the orders, doesn't follow the execution plan. That's the risk over there. We have proven examples of people being successful with it. That's the risk. Over here, well, market risk, investment risk, all of the different risks. So, and then of course, the market itself isn't necessarily the safest vehicle either, right? It is for long-term growth, typically over time, right? Of course, speak to your person. And I'm not talking about investments. I'm just talking in general. So that is an important distinguishing feature. I'm going to call it quits there. I think AI Craig fell asleep. That's fine. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to pick up your copy of $1 Million Agency on Amazon. Link is in below, as long as our guy cuts it in there. And we appreciate you. Thank you. If you have questions, email Emily@theidudes.com and she can get it over to us and maybe we'll bring up your name on the air. Yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm liking that. Talk soon.